Hey, I'm Dean and this is Legacy Voyage. In Season 1, I'm documenting my journey to earning my first 100K net worth as a full-time college student. Join me as I share some of the lessons I learned along the way.
The last 7 days have been the hardest of my entire career, but for the best reason. Not because something went wrong, but because life threw me a huge curveball. Over the next month, I'll be finishing college, moving to a new city, and working at a rocket ship startup. Feels like everything is happening all at once. But to be honest, my career has never made sense in the moment. When I first came into college, I wanted to be an engineer. And then after that, I picked up tons of internships in private equity and consulting and venture capital. And then I ended up jumping ship and becoming a founder. And then I decided to kill the startup because it was dying and went to a different startup and became an intern and then worked so hard that I became full time as I was finishing up school. And now, in the next 3 weeks, actually, I'm going to be finishing school, moving to a new city, and working at a startup. And so every single pivot, it felt wrong at the time, but every single one of those pivots ended up being exactly what I needed. So if your path looks random, that's a good thing. Your career doesn't have to be a straight line. So if you're in a season where nothing makes sense, graduating, switching jobs, moving, just keep going. The dots will connect looking back. So in the next month, this is going to be a roller coaster. So follow along. I'm gonna give you a fair warning before this podcast. I wrote that whole intro beforehand, um, just to give some context because this podcast is a friggin' roller coaster. The past 7 weeks truly have been the hardest conversations, the hardest decisions I've ever had to make in my entire 2, 3 years. And I probably say that, and I'll probably have some other decision that feels like the hardest decision of my career in the next, I don't know, a couple months, a year, 2 years. I don't know what it'll be, but man, this is going to be a roller coaster. So I will just dive right into this first part. Throughout the episode, I'll try to give you some context. I'll try to paint the road because I do hop around everywhere, but just keep in mind all of this was in about 6 days, all in this podcast, and I'll try to keep track of the days, try to keep track of the timeline. This first part, it was when I had just started that work trial that I was just talking about in the last episode. So I ended up getting the work trial. I ended up going out there, and this first part is recorded from San Francisco after I had woken up at 4 in the morning that day. And this part was recorded, I want to say 11 p.m. And I was just working so long that day. So let's dive into this roller coaster, man. I am doing this pod from San Francisco, out here on my first work trial that I've ever been on. Hikey, I'm so tired, bro. I woke up at 4 a.m. to catch the flight. Luckily, I did get some good sleep on the plane, so that was super nice. But yeah, I got to the office at like 11, and right now it is about to be 10. And I've just been on the grind. Oh, honestly, 2, 3, 4 hours. Probably like 3 hours where we grabbed lunch and dinner. So always nice to get some free food. But you could probably tell from my voice, like I am quite tired. My energy is fading away. But I really wanted to capture this moment because it's a very interesting moment about the things I'm thinking about with this decision. And it's a very interesting experience working out here. Well, before I really dive into anything, I think one for the life update, starting with my God, one thing that I've tried to be more conscious of, and this is actually like a question that was asked the other night. It was like, what's the most conscious decision you've made recently? And I think for me, the more conscious decision I've made recently is trying to be more conscious with those in-between moments. Those moments where you're in the elevator, or you're going for a walk, or you're waiting for the microwave. Like those in-between moments where usually you'd grab your phone and I would just go and scroll and whatever. I've tried to use those moments, and I'm calling those prayer moments. And those are just moments where I can really reflect and sit with God and try to build that relationship, especially because that's one of my big goals for the new year. And then going along with that, I've been kind of reading, right now I've been reading Proverbs, and there's a specific verse in Proverbs that I've been thinking a lot about, especially with this big decision that I'm gonna have to make or gonna need to make. And it's Proverbs 3:5, and it reads, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to him, and he will make your path straight." That was something that I've been thinking a lot about, especially because I honestly was having so much, maybe anxiety isn't the right word, but I was just really overthinking this decision. Like, oh my goodness, what am I gonna do? Should I do this? Should I not do this? Like, I was really trying to basically just bang my head against the door and really not knowing what to do and what will work and what won't work. But I think this was a good reminder, just to like, it truly is in God's hands, and we'll see what he has for me and what his plans are. But all I can do is trust him, and he will do what needs to be done, or do what he has in store for me. So that's the update on myself. Yeah, you can probably tell, bro. My sleep has not been very good. Honestly, it's been phenomenal, but just this trip is gonna completely trash it. Running has been good. Definitely won't get my long run in this weekend, but I'll get back to that next weekend. Update on my people. It's been good. I was catching up with them the other day. But oh yeah, that's the other thing. It is, I guess tomorrow is about to be Valentine's, bro. Your boy does not have a Valentine. I gotta hop on it. But update on my work. Yeah, the honestly, the biggest thing has been this work trial. Oh, and actually, before I get to that, there was this dinner I had the other day with, there was a guy I met through the Christian club over here, just the Christian student group thing. It was actually a great dinner. He was telling me a story. Honestly, his story was insane. Just like 4 people who was super close to him, they all passed away in the span of a couple months. And I was like, oh my goodness, that's insane. And then he just has this crazy journey of like being super hard atheist and then ending up like finding God and becoming a Christian. And honestly, it was crazy because during that, I was like talking about these specific verses, and he was literally just like reciting the verses off of memory. It was like, I was like, oh yeah, like I remember I was reading this one verse that had this mentioned something about this one specific thing, and then he was like, oh yeah, that's Proverbs, da 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 da, and then that actually goes like da da, and it was just completely read off from memory. I was like, dude, this guy is like, he really knows the word inside and out. And I was just asking him, dude, what's your process? And he said he spends the first hour of his day and he dedicates it to God. And I was thinking about how beautiful that really is, because for the longest time I didn't want to work out. And the reason I didn't work out in the morning because I was like, dude, like I just don't have time. But eventually I was like, no, this is a priority. I want to make time for this. I just went to sleep earlier and woke up earlier and then worked out, and everything was fine. But then hearing him say that, I was like, dude, this is so much more important than working out. Like literally, this is way more important than that. So I'm gonna try to start at least like 10 minutes and just dedicate it to God and slowly build up from there. And honestly, I've been trying to do that more recently, and it's been super helpful. So I'm gonna keep pushing forward with that. We'll finish this work trial out. Honestly, I won't give my full thoughts yet, or at least I think it is important. At least first impressions, bro. Yeah, it's 10 p.m. and people were just barely leaving. So honestly, this is the SF startup life, dude. Like people genuinely work till like 8, 9 p.m. and that is just like part of the grind, which is I've wanted to experience it. So I'm happy that I at least get to experience it. I'm not sure I actually like it more than Leland though. So yeah, we'll see how things end up going. The people, they're very interesting people. But yeah, we'll just see where things end up going. I'm gonna just keep pushing forward, playing by ear, but I'll catch y'all after this work trial, see if an offer comes through, seeing if a decision has to be made. Yeah, I really gotta think everything through, but I'll catch y'all. This next part was literally right before I was gonna go to bed on this same day, so yeah, I recorded that last part just at the office, got home that day, took a little shower, and then gave a little quick debrief of where my head was at in that first day. And just spoiler alert, I was really leaning hard toward Leland. There was a lot going in my head that day, but I was like, dude, at this point, even if I get the offer, like I'll probably just stick with Leland because I'm not sure how I feel about this whole experience. But here is the debrief from the first day on the work trial. I think gut feeling I'm thinking right now is that I'm super happy that I came out here to experience this, like the SF grind. I am starting to live through kind of what I've been told. Like for example, I was told, oh yeah, being in Utah, being at Leland, you're a big fish in a small pond. But being over here at a SF startup, you're a
tiny fish in a massive ocean. And that is definitely true. Like, I can just see it in the caliber of people. At least at the startup that I'm at right now, it's like at Leland, everyone was like leaving these big time jobs and offers all to go to Leland. It was because it was like it's just so massive and so big for Utah standards. But over here, it's like, dude, there's a million different startups that anyone can go join. So if you're not one of the best, most cracked startups, like you're not gonna get top talent. And so that's one thing I'm noticing out here is like it's much harder to attract top talent, I think, in SF than it is in Utah. So yeah, maybe it's just the startup that I'm at right now, but it's like it's so interesting. Also, they work all the time, and so understanding like the work-life balance in Leland, because the nice thing at Leland is that if I work all day, that's like actually my choice, because not everyone is gonna work all day. But over here, everyone works all day, so it's like that's just like baseline what everyone else is doing. So that's just some things I'm thinking about. I'm not sure how to approach the topic, but yeah, I'm gonna have to do some thinking, bro. I'm gonna have to do some thinking.
So coming out of that first day, I was really not feeling Sphinx. I was really leaning hard toward Leland. A couple days had passed, so that was Friday. I was working all day Saturday, working all day Sunday, and then working most of the day Monday. And my flight was on Monday, kind of in the afternoonish, and left there around like, I want to say like 2-ish p.m. Got to the airport and just really, really did a ton of thinking. So this was in the moment thoughts at the airport when I just found out that I got my offer, and I was really, really trying to think through things and where my mind was at. I'm at the airport right now, about to head back to Chicago after everything is all finished up. But honestly, I have so much to think about. The biggest thing is good news. Your boy got an insanely good offer, especially for a new grad. Like, really, really good. The bad news is that now I gotta make a decision. I gotta make a choice between the offers. And honestly, this is kind of a tough one. There's so many factors at play, like, especially now that I have the offer in hand and it's like a real tangible decision that I have to make between the two. It's become so much harder to make that choice. But to explain how the whole offsite went, give like off the dome thoughts. Day one, I honestly was leaning hard toward Leland. Like, day one, it was a bit of a culture shock, primarily because like I went in, or I'll give you a rundown of my day. So I woke up at like 4 a.m, caught my flight, which was at like 6:30ish, then came over to SF, landed around 10 a.m.-ish, and then got to the office at 11. And then from 11 a.m. to 10 p.m., like after all of that, I just worked. And of course, we stopped a bit in there to grab dinner, but it was like a ton of work. And also like the office culture vibes is very, very different than Leland. And so that kind of threw me off a little bit, but grabbed dinner with everyone. And then we finished dinner like 8 p.m. Everyone went right back to work. So after that finished up, I was like, day one, leaning more toward Leland because like there's a lot more learning potential, at least in my head, for Leland. And at that time I was thinking the nice thing about Leland is the work-life balance, because no one's really like pressuring me or forcing me to stay in office. I just choose to be in office at Leland until like 9, 10 p.m. all the time with the whole office. And so by the second day and third day, like it really did flip. Like not flip, but now I'm a lot more in the center, because I've really thought about it. For me, I actually, especially being 21, being young, no obligations, like I prefer working a lot. Like I would be down to do 997, bro. And so I think that's one part of like, for sure Leland is great if you're like 30, but as a 21-year-old like trying to grind, I would be down to put in a ton of work. So that was one thing. And a couple of other factors that were affected by that. One is going into this, and even after day one, like in my head, there was this huge gap between the learning opportunity and potential. So at Leland, I was like, oh yeah, for sure. Like it's way, way better than what I could learn at Sphinx. But after the past couple days, it's like, wait a minute. Because of my speed and velocity and volume of work, like it just accelerates the learning that much more. Now, for sure, Leland definitely beats it in terms of quality. It's like I have mentors that I can look up to. They have tons and tons of experience that I can learn from. At Sphinx, it's really just me and the founder. The founder, this is really his first startup that's actually taking off. And so we're just like learning on the fly. But as we're learning on the fly, we get so much at bats that it kind of, maybe it doesn't like necessarily offset, but it definitely compensates for the gap. And so at least where I stand now is the gap of learning is actually a lot smaller than I thought it was before. And maybe that I could just be like too inexperienced to understand that there is like a way bigger gap than there actually is. But that is one thing I'm thinking about. The other thing I'm thinking about as well is like, bro, the salary difference. Like, yeah, is the money. And I'll just say this, bro. Sphinx is paying double. And it's like, bro, to be making double. And of course, like living expenses in SF is double, but I really would be so frugal that I wouldn't feel the full impact of that living difference. Like I'll be bunking with a buddy, splitting a room, and we would just like save a ton of money. And then I would never spend money on food because like they pay for all the food. It's like, yeah, I'm really trying to think through that. Well, honestly, I'll just give like a couple highlights throughout the whole on-site. One of the big highlights, or the thing that caught me off guard, was like first day I got to the office, bro gives me a credit card. He legit just gives me a credit card. I'm like, bro, what? And then he says, pay for whatever you want. Let's see what you can do. And so I think I spent like $400 or $500 all on that credit card, just getting random software stuff. And that's part of the reason why I think it kind of compensates for the learning, is because I was able to learn like 3 different new tools from scratch, all because I could just like try them out, test it, and see what works. And it was amazing. And honestly, thinking back to it now, like I really have just done the same thing at Leland. Like I learned HubSpot completely on my own. I learned Zap completely on my own. I learned NA10 completely on my own. So it's like honestly just kind of an extension of what I'm already doing. But that was one big highlight. I think I'm still like not 100% sure. I'm probably like 60% in terms of like in the middle would be at like 50, not really knowing who to go with. But I think I'm slightly leaning towards Sphinx as of right now. But I think something that might persuade my mind a lot more is I'm gonna call my mentor tomorrow, call up my boy, see what he thinks, get his thoughts, and then navigate it from there. Because honestly, yeah, this offer was a lot to think about. And he gave it to me so straight up. He was like, dude, like, I want you to start working now. Like, you quit Leland right now. I'll start paying you as you're finishing up school. And we'll just like, boom, be off to the races. Yeah, I really got to think it through. So after my flight on Monday from San Francisco back to Chicago, I literally spent the entire flight like banging my head against the wall, trying to get this decision, weigh out the pros and cons. I literally made this big old list, and I really had no idea what to do. So at that point, I was like really 50-50 with it. I spent that Monday night really trying to think through things, and then all day Tuesday really hammering out the details, trying to like talk with people, whoever I could, and try to make a decision. Like basically just come to some type of decision, some type of framework to help me think through this thing, because bro, I was really lost. This next part is Tuesday night after I talked with tons of people, really trying to weigh out this decision, and it was racing through my mind. And eventually I was kind of leaning toward one way, and that was the SF offer. I've talked with a couple people, mentors, family, friends, and I think I've made a decision. Now I'm probably like 90% sure of this decision, but I'm about to go into a meeting with my manager right now. And it's going to have to be 100% because I'm finna tell him right now. But the deal is, I think I'm going to go ahead with Sphinx. And there's a lot of different reasons why I'm choosing this. But the biggest reasons is the gap of learning. Probably that's like one of the big reasons, is because at first I thought, oh, like the amazing thing about Leland is that I have all these mentors and people to learn from. It's not just me building everything from scratch. But I was talking with one of my mentors today. He told me something that honestly, like, I completely forgot about. And he told me that my mentor doesn't have to work in the company, which is such a simple thing. But I was like, yeah, that's a great point. Like, I could totally find mentors outside who can show me the ropes. But that was like honestly one big thing I was thinking about. But another thing that I'm still trying to think through is what this transition will be like. Like, I'm about to tell my manager leaving, and I was talking with Sphinx, and they were like, dude, we want you to start now, like next week. And then he'll start paying me like now, which is insane, dude. Like, first of all, what a blessing it is to be in this position right now. It's actually wild. Like a philosophy major, Tongan kid, like trying to decide between 2 amazing options. So that's like a really, really big thing. Yeah, but honestly, I just want to record this to get like real-time thoughts as I'm about to walk into this meeting, and I'll do like another brief thing after the meeting, reporting on how it goes. But man, yeah, this is gonna be real tough. But we'll see how things go, bruh. So it's still Tuesday. Now it's like 4-ish p.m., 5-ish p.m., and I'm going into my one-on-one with my manager. For this, I wanted to at least have a little bit of privacy, so I only recorded the things that I said, and I'm cutting out things that might get a little too personal, but I honestly still really wanted to keep this part in here just to show really the raw conversation, the raw emotions of everything I was thinking through, especially in this conversation, because I will hands down say, like, this is probably one of, if not the most toughest conversations I've had to do my entire career, was breaking the news to Leland and telling my manager, who I love and just super great stand-up guy, that I'm leaving. And I was stumbling over my words, but here is a couple clips from that convo. And keep in mind that because I'm cutting some things out, it kind of hops around in there a little bit, but you'll get to hear like some of my parts of that conversation, and then I'll come back later and give like a little debrief. Okay. I'm about to tell my manager that I'm leaving Leland. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I recently got this very, very interesting, very cool opportunity at San Francisco. And so I have no idea how I'm about to navigate this, but yeah, I want to record this before I go into it. Low-key, I literally went on like a 30-minute walk, and I was just like practicing what I was going to say in this convo. Yeah, look at my heart is racing. I should check my heart rate. But honestly, we'll just see how it goes. We shall see how it goes. Dang, I'm not sure if I can capture his audio too. Yeah, but this will be a live demonstration. Oh wait, let me make sure that this is recording. Okay. Dang. Okay. Lock in. I gave him like a little heads up beforehand. I was like, yo, we got some really important things to talk about this meeting. Like, can we extend like 15 minutes? Just to give like a freak. Okay, let's lock the freak in. I'll definitely like ask me questions about the startup, and I'll probably press on it, and I'll probably try to sell me to stay with Leland. Or he could just say, okay, like, that's fine. Let's make today your last day. I have no idea, bro. Okay, let me lock in. Oh, freak! Oh my goodness. Yeah, I think the move is to tell them up front and then usually we spend this time like talking about initiatives and stuff. And I still want to keep this relationship with him because he is super cracked. Oh, okay. Dude, my heart is literally racing, bro. I should do, I'm gonna track my heart rate. Okay. Honestly, that's not racing. It's like 80. It's not too bad. But I think my resting is supposed to be like 60. Gosh, freak, bro. Okay. Lock the freak in. Bro, I don't even have any talking points, though. Oh my goodness. Okay. So yeah, I'll say this, pull the band-aid off, and then I can go into other stuff. But so over the weekend, I actually was I was at SF for a work trial, and so they extended the offer, and I think I'm gonna move forward with the SF opportunity. I know it definitely feels like out of the blue, but with that said, I want to like pull the band-aid off there first. I've enjoyed Leland. I still love Leland. I love like working with you. I love the work here. But I could like happy to answer any questions that I'm sure will come up. But wanted to tell you now before we yeah. Honestly, all of this was me wanting to work in SF started 2 weeks ago. And it was really because my friends were all heading out there, and I was like, okay, we'll do a couple interviews, see how that works. I was like super fast interview process, and then ended up going out there. Honestly, like I think even to this day, like Leland is honestly like great opportunity. But the SF opportunity I think is too massive to say no to, especially because I think we talked about this even before I came on full time. Is like the pull to SF for me is really, really strong. Yeah, so it's a little bit of background, YC startup, that I'd be like founding GTM, hire 8, and so really early super early stage. Yeah, so the company, they do like AI compliance. They're making a good amount of money, just raise the seed. And so yeah, and then the role itself would just be like building out the sales motion for them. There's a couple factors at play. I think first I'll start with the reason why this was such a, like, even after they gave me the offer, like going into the work trial, even I was leaning hard toward Leland. Like the biggest pull for me, at least this early on in my career, like the biggest navigator for me in terms of what to do is learning, and I was like maximizing learning a ton, and like even over the summer, over this past couple of months, I've learned a ton from you, from the entire team, and so that was like the really big motivator for why I'd want to, like, yeah, keep on going with Leland. So as I was going into the work trial, that's where my head was at. Coming out of the work trial, there were a couple of things. Was that one, it would be, these were like 10, 12-hour work days. And for most people that like kind of sucks. For me, I like genuinely love that type of work, which is like at Leland, it's not possible. Like people have families, people have kids, but over there, because I have so much volume, we can work over the weekends, speed, velocity. There's just that much more learning that can happen within that time. So I think hopefully that'll just give an idea of the learning. And then of course, like the other big factor is the salary and then the pay and the comp as well. We'll probably get to this, but I think this is also really important to start and bring up right now, is that they were honestly hoping for me to start like as soon as the work trial ended and just like drop everything completely. I really like try to push back. I was like, look, I love you guys. I love Leland. I would hate to just up and leave. Like of course I can like legally do that. But it's just not, that just doesn't sit right with me. And so, I was able to convince him, like, okay, we'll push it back a week, at least give this time like fully sprint, see what we can do to hand off. And then even after the week, of course, I can be on call for whatever needs to be, because they also offered to pay the salary while I finish up school in the next month-ish. Yeah, I've honestly, I've been thinking a lot about this. So to give you some perspective, going into the work trial, I was like 90% leaning toward Leland, 80%. Coming out of the work trial, it became like 50-ish, and then now like really thinking about it, it's more toward like 10 to 20%. So there's still like I should say it like this, like, of course, if there was like, I don't know, you guys double the salary or something, like of course, like that would just like make sense, and that would be like a huge draw. But yeah, I'm pretty dead set on leaning toward it. Of course, I haven't given him a definitive answer, like yes, we'll move forward. I wanted to at least like have this conversation, give it the night, sleep on it, and then give an answer tomorrow. But that is, at least that's where my head is at right now. You have a good one. Bye. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Oh, that was insane. Dude, I checked while I was delivering the news. I checked my heart rate, bro. It got up to 120, dude. Yeah. Oh, freak. Hey, what's done is done. I still haven't made a fully formed decision. I think what I said is still true. If they come up with like an insanely good offer, I could still pick Leland, because I really love the company and the people over there. It's still a great opportunity, but man, Sphinx is also a really great opportunity. Oh, a good problem to have, bro. That's what I keep telling myself. So that was how that conversation went. Honestly, just listening and watching that back, dude, it is tough. Like all the emotions come back, and yeah, that was a really hard conversation that had to be had. So right after coming out of that conversation and recording it, I gave an immediate debrief of how I thought it went, what I was feeling in the moment. So this is what I was thinking. Keep in mind, this is all still Tuesday, like at 5, probably this was 6-ish p.m. And I was still really trying to debate and think through this decision. Just hopped off the call, and man, a lot of things running through my mind, bruh. A lot of things. But dude, my heart rate was racing, bro. Like right before I broke the news, I looked at my watch and it hit 120. I was actually like freaking out, but broke the news to him. And it really sucked too, or it didn't suck, but it was like coming into the meeting, I gave him a heads up. I was like, hey, just want to let you know some important things to talk about, so we might want to extend this one-on-one, because we do one-on-ones every week. And so coming into the meeting, he was like, okay, like, I'm super excited. I love important things, so let's talk about the important things. And so I literally just ripped the Band-Aid off, let him know, and then he asked me some questions. I answered them. He asked like where my head was at. I explained, and now that's where I'm at, what I'm thinking through. It was honestly a really great conversation to have, like a great conversation to learn from. I even recorded the whole thing, but yeah, I was freaking the freak out, bro. But what's done is done now. But man, I'm just thinking about it now. I'm so happy I've been recording these little snippets in between, because so much time and thought has been put into these types of decisions that a year from now, like, I could tell someone all these things and they wouldn't, like, it's so difficult to convey, like, the amount of confusion and no idea what I'm gonna do with my life type of moments like these. And when I say that, it's like, okay, sure, dude. Like, what a nice problem to have. And that's what we keep reminding myself, like, it truly is a nice problem to have. It still is a problem nonetheless. As a problem, I still got to put a lot of thought into it and see how I want to think through things. But that's where my head is at right now. I have no idea what's gonna come of this, what's gonna happen. What these next couple days hold, bro. Like, like, literally. I used to be like confused about, like, oh, I don't know what I'm gonna do like in 10 years. Bro, now I'm confused what I'm about to do in like the next 10 hours, bro. So yeah, I'll think through it for sure and see what the freak happens, because dang, this is insane. So a couple hours passed by, and then this is now Tuesday night, where I've talked to a couple people, thought about the decision more, and my manager from Leland, he called me back. He gave me a little update of where they were at and the leadership team, how they felt about everything. And so this was a quick little snippet that I recorded right before I was going to sleep Tuesday night, because keep in mind, I was really pushing to get a decision done by Wednesday. So the next day I wanted to have a clear, definitive answer, if I was going to take it, if I was going to leave it. But this was my thoughts Tuesday night. Okay, a lot has happened, and I think I've made a decision, and it took a lot of guesswork, but I think I know what I'm going to do. But before I explain all that, I gotta explain the ups and downs, bro, because I've literally been swinging back and forth, and I really gotta figure this out. So a couple things I've gone down that has kind of like swayed my opinions and thoughts on things, and I can kind of give a rundown of what's been going on. So let me backtrack a little bit, high level. So at the start of today, I was probably like 60% leaning towards Sphinx, and I had a bunch of convos today with like mentors and people that have given me their thoughts or advice on things. Everything they said makes a ton of sense, and I ended up coming out at like 80-90% leaning towards Sphinx. And so going into my one-on-one with my manager, that's how I was feeling. And then coming out of the one-on-one, I still was feeling that pull, but there were a couple things that he talked about that I probably won't share everything, but some things that he did hit on that honestly made me really want to evaluate and analyze the options. One thing was the role that they had for me in mind. So basically, there's this new idea to build out this new product, this new AI product, and it'll be this like super cool product. And the idea was that for me, when I move out there, I would go and take it over and become the GM of that new product. And so that honestly sounds super enticing, super compelling to me. So that kind of like raised an eyebrow, like, oh, what's that all about? So that was one thing. And I was just thinking about all the opportunities that I would get to learn in that type of role and all the people that I could surround myself with. And I was just thinking about like, man, there's all these things I love about Leland. So that was one thing. But we came out of that meeting and it was basically like, okay, my manager, he would like go talk with the CEO, try to figure out what the vibes are. And so went out of that. And then I went to I've been going to like a Christian group recently. And so every Tuesday is like the big group, and like the pastor, or I think he's a pastor, he goes up, gives a little sermon, and then everyone like goes up. It's like a little worship service. So I went to that. I really wanted to like basically just process everything, disconnect, spend some time with God, really try to think this through. Yeah, the entire time I was just thinking through the decision, like weighing out the pros and cons, like really what I should do. And then every now and then I would like try to zone out and just try to like focus on like being in the present. But it was really tough. But there was one thing in particular that, as the pastor was preaching, he was giving the sermon, there was one thing in particular that really stood out to me. I honestly don't even know the context. I don't even remember that. But what I do remember was that he was describing a wealthy man. And he was saying how the wealthy man isn't even given a name, as described in the Bible or in this specific story. Isn't even given a name. And like part of the reason we could think about is because this wealthy man put wealth above everything else and valued money and wealth over God. And so that kind of made me take a step back and at least like really think through the decision, because intuitively gut feeling is that when I look at this decision from the perspective of my dream self, and that dream self being Jesus Christ, if I look at this decision from that perspective, then intuitively it feels like Leland is the better option. It's just like the environment is better to cultivate like a relationship with God. There's a lot of other Christians there. Like, of course, they're LDS or Mormon. But like, there's still a lot of the same values, alignment with everyone and most of the entire team. And I would also have like this work-life balance, so I could actually spend time focusing and building that relationship with God, which I want to do. And at least in my head, like that's not something that would be that doable. Of course, like there's always a way to find a way, but it honestly wouldn't be that doable at Sphinx. Like I would work there all the time. And so that decision made me think about like, man, if I make this decision, and that's not to say like, oh, I go through Sphinx, like I'm an evil person, but if I make this decision, am I just chasing the money? Like, how do I think through it? And so that gave me a lot to think about. And like, as a reminder, I went into that thing 80-90% Sphinx. And then I came out of it like, oh, a little more iffy, like maybe in the 70s, like I gotta think about this more. And so, yeah, I was really trying to think things through. And then I went and caught up with a friend. And so I was just like, basically just yapping to her. And I was like, I don't know, the equivalent of venting, but for tough decisions or whatever. But I was basically just like throwing everything that I was thinking about, all these different things. I explained everything that happened, like with telling my manager. And then, oh yeah, wait, one big thing before I went to her is that I actually got a call from my manager from Leland. And so he had met with the CEO. They have all talked and thought it through and thought about everything. And so we caught up, and he, yeah, basically just gave me a lay of the land, like where they were at. I think it might be too much detail to go into about where they were at, but yeah, he gave me what they were thinking about, and that gave me a lot to think about, like, oh man. And so that was a lot, really like a lot to process after that meeting. There's so many things that I probably shouldn't and don't want to go into, but went, caught up with my friend, and then yeah, basically just venting to her like all these different things that I was thinking through. And then I explained the dream self decision, like that type of framework that I was thinking through. And a really interesting question she asked me that like made me take a step back was comparing this decision to like BYU basically, or like some other Christian school, and basically saying like, okay, if you think about it, like at least the way I was thinking about it was the environment to cultivate and build a relationship with God is a lot easier. It's a way easier to do if I were at Leland. That I think is true for sure. Now, given that, would it be enough of a driver, enough of a draw, enough of a pull to choose Leland over Sphinx? And so that was one thing she asked. An analogy she gave me, which I thought was really good, was like, okay, if you had the opportunity to go to BYU or some other Christian school versus Northwestern, and you choose Northwestern, and sure, like the environment isn't as like conducive to that specific goal, but you still found a way. Like realistically, I still found some other Christians, some other people to be around, and surely I would be able to do the same in SF. Like surely that would be super doable. And so that was one thing that got me thinking. I was like, okay, that's a great point. And so as I was like yapping on and on with her, like trying to think through the decision, she was basically just asking like, okay, it sounds like you already made a decision. I was like, yeah, I think so too. Like at this point, I would probably just take the Sphinx offer. And I don't say that lightly. Like this truly did take a lot of like wrestling with and thinking through to really wrap my mind around. But I think that is what's best for, not even like, that's what's most exciting and what's best for my career. And so I want to at least spend tonight thinking about it, thinking on it. Tomorrow I can give like a definitive answer. It will most likely be yes to Sphinx. But that said, I did want to like clear out some logistical questions with like start dates and things like that. As a reminder, Sphinx wants me to start next week, and Leland was like, "Yeah, like we expect a 2 week notice. Like we want give you some time to roll off." And so there's that. And then the other thing is that the exact date I'm like kind of iffy about because I'm not really sure. I might be able to push my exams up earlier and then just start with Syncs full time in person rather than working remote a couple days. But yeah, that is a big driver. A lot of things happening, a lot of things in the works. But yeah, that's where my head is at. And we'll see how tomorrow is, see how I handle things. But yeah, I'll catch y'all. So that's where my head was at Tuesday night. I slept on it, and then coming back Wednesday morning, the morning of the big day where it was time to make a decision, I finally pulled the trigger. So first thing in the morning, I had a meeting with one of my teammates at Leland, and then, bro, in that meeting, it was like hard to focus and get clarity on this whole decision. But right after the meeting, I called up Sphinx, the startup that I was going to work at, and I accepted, and I worked out a start date. So I had everything set there, and then right after that, called up Leland, talked with my manager, told him about the decision. That again was, man, such a tough conversation to have. So here was the conversation that I had with my manager, delivering to him the official news that I had already accepted the SF offer. And then right after that, I recorded like a little debrief in there too. But yeah, I wanted to call, tell you the final decision. I think I'll probably preface this by just saying like, dude, I absolutely love Leland. I was honestly like, it really did. Like it was hard to hear how like disappointed you guys felt because I guess going into the decision, I didn't fully like wrap my mind around that, but then after you guys let me know, it was like, yeah, that makes a ton of sense why you guys feel that way. And so totally like understand where you guys are coming from. I think regardless, I love Leland, I love you guys and working with you guys. And so I decided to go ahead with the other offer. With that said, I also really pushed to like give you guys at like the minimum 2 weeks, like you said. And so the official start date for them will be March 9th. And so we have like 2.5 weeks. And I will, like, over these 2.5 weeks, I will sprint and work like 10 hours really to like make sure that I'm not leaving you guys hanging, even after the fact. More than happy to come in and help wherever and answer any questions because like there's so much random stuff that I built out. And so that's like, yeah, one thing. And then the other thing is just like this decision was not easy at all. Like it wasn't like, oh, like YC, like SF, like of course I'm gonna go there. It's like it really did take like a lot of back and forth. Even after the call we had yesterday, there was like I was talking with a friend, and like even that really made me like decide through this. But yeah, this could totally be the dumbest like career move I'm making at all. Like it totally could be. It's like been a pleasure working with you, working with everyone on the team. The other thing I was gonna say is because because the offsite is in like 2 weeks. And so for that, like totally up to you guys. I would be more than happy to like really grind and make sure that everything is set before, whether that be in person or not. But yeah, totally up to you guys of whether you'd want that. I'm assuming no, but I will sprint these last 2.5 weeks and then make it count, make it count. How we going? Ah, man, that's tough. So that was the meeting with my manager, and then right after, I used Whisper, which is just a voice to text thing, and I was just writing a quick personal message to the CEO, which I thought might have been too personal to include here, but I think is actually worth including just to convey really how I was feeling through this entire situation, because I think this kind of hits home how deep and personal and tough this decision truly, truly was. And you'll see it at the very end. I actually forgot that I recorded this entire thing. And so I look, I'm like, oh, wait, this is being recorded? I was like, dang. But yeah, this was like a really heartfelt, like vulnerable message that I sent to the CEO, just conveying how sorry and grateful and all the emotions I feel in this decision. So this was the message I sent. I decided to go forward with the SF offer, but just wanted to send you this personal note as well. First, I just want to say sorry. Like, I know that you and the team must feel like disappointed. This was by no means an easy decision at all. This was a really tough decision. So I just want to, yeah, first off, just saying that I'm sorry for leaving Leland and going ahead with this other offer. I also just want to say I still do and will always love Leland, love you guys, love the team. It has been an absolute pleasure and a blast working with everyone, and that will not change. And I'm wishing you and the entire team like the best of luck. And finally, I just want to say I'm gonna stay on for these next 2.5 weeks, and I'm gonna sprint my absolute hardest to make sure that everything is in place, that everything is worked out, and make sure that we're all set to go after I head out. And of course, even after I head out, I'm more than happy to lend a hand wherever you guys need. Again, I just want to reiterate, I'm sorry for this decision and how it impacts you guys, Leland, and the team. And even more than that, I just want to say thank you so much for believing in me, for giving me a shot, for giving me this opportunity. And I will always be grateful for the time that I had with Leland, and will always love you guys on the team. Oh wait, I recorded that? My goodness, bro, I forgot this thing was on. Bro, I was just thinking I wish I recorded that. Oh my goodness. Dude, I was literally tearing up, bro. Oh, that was tough to break, but oh man, we pulled the trigger. We are going to Sphinx. Start date is March 9th. Man, it's exciting. It's also crazy. It's also, man, it's also everything. Yeah, I really got to sprint on Leland stuff, hit this over the line, make sure we're all set, and then I'm headed out to San Francisco, bro. Big news. I just pulled the trigger. Oh, that was really nerve-wracking, actually. So I called up the Sphinx guy, let him know I'm down for the offer, worked out a start date that would work. And so we landed on March 9th, which is in 3 weeks, which is crazy to think about. So I'm giving Leland 2.5 weeks, get everything in order, and then be in person in SF for the new job. And man, this is that was so I actually recorded when I was breaking the news to Leland. Man, low-key, while I was telling him, I was like, dude, I'm so sorry. I was like low-key tearing up. Like, it was just so tough. But honestly, like, sometimes you just gotta pull the trigger and stick with it. Like, now we gotta live with the decisions that we've made, the consequences, and push forward. So gonna go hunt for some apartments, live with my boys, and now we gotta figure out boarding and how that'll all look. Yeah, this will be a really, really interesting next couple of weeks. And that was how this past week went, and man, was that roller coaster, dude. I was so lost. I had no idea what to do. This kind of felt similar to when I first accepted the Leland offer, and I was making the debate between this and a different opportunity and maybe dropping out of school. I had no idea, but yeah, this was how things went, and I am going ahead with Sphinx, and we'll be working out there in about 2 weeks, honestly. So next week I'll be working with Leland, and then the week after I'll be on my last week with Leland, and then out there in San Francisco after that. So this is about to be a grind, but I really wanted to do like a high-level overview, a walkthrough of how I even ended up with this offer. Because as a reminder, when I was first trying to debate between taking this Leland offer, I had this other opportunity at a recruiting startup. I decided to go with Leland, and so that other recruiting startup, I referred a friend, and he actually ended up working there. So I was like, okay, that's cool. But the founder of that recruiting startup hit me up and wanted someone else, if I knew anyone else who would be a good fit. So I referred another friend, and within 2 weeks, he actually got the offer. And so he ended up out there, and now he's going to work there. And so that I found out that was on a Sunday is when he told me, like, he got the offer and then got everything figured out. And I was like, dang, dude, low key, I kind of want to work in San Francisco now. Like, it would be so sick to go and room with them and like build companies out there in San Francisco, and that would be awesome. And keep in mind, up until that point, I was so sold on Leland. Like I had it dead in my mind. I was even thinking of like buying houses. I was going house shopping and I would get a home and then buy it and house hack it. Like all these ideas were coming and I would be able to live with families. But I was so dead set on this idea of going to Utah. I was like, okay, I'll for sure go and do that. But Sunday, this was February 1st, where I decided, you know what, maybe I'll just go interview at a couple places. So I hit up that same recruiting startup, and in literally 10 minutes, I kid you not, I texted him. I was like, hey, low-key, I'm kind of interested in SF startups. Like, let me know if you know some places. He responds back immediately. He's like, okay, let me put your name out there. And so literally in 10 minutes, I kid you not, bro secures me 3 first-round interviews. So he literally sends me all the 3 startups, people to talk to and their calendars, and I go and I book calendars, or I book meetings on their calendars. And so I usually try to get it as early as possible. So literally I book it like the earliest time slots that I possibly can, which was Monday, which is the next day, February 2nd. And then the another one or 2 others were on Tuesday. And so I go into, and you can go back and listen to the past like 2-3 episodes. I talk about this. And in the first round, which is on Monday, February 2nd, with Sphinx, I go into that call. It's the intro call, just getting to know each other. And I remember this where he literally asked me, like, I think it was one of his first questions. He straight up asked me, what's the hardest problem you've worked on? And that immediately, like, bro, I was so flustered. Like, I had no idea what to say. I didn't think of a good answer. So I literally took like a couple minutes and then blurted out an answer that honestly, like, looking back, it didn't really feel strong. And that alone threw me for a loop. But then he asked me another question. He was like, why Sphinx? Like, why do you want to come work for us? And then again, I gave like kind of a rambling answer. Like, I really felt like I was rambling like a consultant, like not even knowing actually what I wanted. And what made it even worse is that at the end of the interview, usually the interviewer, they give you like a couple minutes to ask your questions. So I like to use this time to ask really, really heavy hitting questions. And I always want to push it to the very end of the meeting. Like, I never want us to end early because it means that I wasn't using time that I could have been using to ask questions. And so he hands time over to me and I ask some questions, like some heavy hitting questions. And then he literally gives me like these driest 1 word, 2 word responses. And I'm like, freak, bro. So even that alone, like I asked this heavy hitting question. He gives a super simple response. And I was like, oh, that was really quick. And then I ask another question. He gives a super simple response. And then, dude, we get in through all my heavy hitting questions like super quick. And we didn't even take up the full time. So we ended it early. And yeah, after that first interview, bro, I really, really thought I was cooked. So I was like, dang, I feel bad, bro. The founder who helped me get this interview in the first place, like, he put his name on the line. So I felt really bad that I was kind of giving him a bad look. So I really, really thought I bombed it. So next day comes, which is Tuesday. I found out that, oh, I got the second round. And so, of course, I booked the very next time slot that's available, which was the next morning on Wednesday, February 4th. And this interview was like a 3-hour case study. And because it was a 3-hour case study, I would select this time slot to meet. And then 3 hours before that, he would send this email. And then I would go through the email, go through the case study, work on it for 3 hours, and then present it to him after it's done. So I booked a time Wednesday morning, super early. And because of that, I had to wake up at 7 a.m., which, for some context, as a college student, that's kind of unheard of. But I really had to go in, woke up at 7 a.m., sprinted through the case study. Honestly, the entire time, I was just like vibe coding. I just felt like a phony because I was just vibe coding everything in Claude. I fed it the entire case study and workshopped everything. And going into the meeting, I honestly went super well. Like, I felt a lot better about it than the first round. So second round went well. And then he ended up scheduling some time with the co-founder. So hopped on a call with him the very next day, as usual, scheduling the earliest time that I could. That call went super well, and so now that was on to the workshop. So I went to 3 rounds, and that was literally all Monday, Wednesday, Thursday. So literally in the span of 4 days, February 2nd to February 5th, I ran through the first round interviews, and then it was time for the work trial. And so we scheduled the work trial for the next weekend. And so started the work trial on Friday, February 13th. And I already walked through the whole work trial. That's when I started recording this entire podcast and all these little snippets that I'm editing together. But literally by Monday, February 16th, that's when I got the offer. So in the span of literally 2 weeks from the very first round, I got the offer, and then that's when I was really, really trying to think through this. And so the other thing that I want to do before I end this episode is really, really dive into all the different factors that I was considering in this whole ordeal. So to give some context, on the flight back from San Francisco, I literally just had my laptop and I opened the notes app, and I was just like writing down every different possible thing that I could think of, everything that people were telling me, everything that mentors are saying, everything that might even remotely help me make this decision. And I've kind of brought them up throughout this entire podcast, but the main thing that I want to focus on is this idea of learning, because that truly is like kind of my North Star with all of this career stuff, is where am I going to learn the most? And like I kept mentioning throughout this podcast, the learning at Leland has been absolutely phenomenal. And no doubt, if I would have stayed, it would have been still very amazing and awesome. And the talent density is insane, so I can learn from tons of people. And so learning for sure, hands down, is great. But the thing is, Sphinx also, learning opportunity is phenomenal. But it's phenomenal in a different way. It's not necessarily like the quality of the learning, which for sure is great too. I'd say Leland quality of learning is probably higher, but where Sphinx really blows Leland out of the water in terms of learning is the sheer quantity and the speed and velocity and the volume. Like, I kept bringing this up, but that truly is like one of the biggest strengths, at least in my mind, that Sphinx had. And you stack that up on top of all the other things, like, first of all, San Francisco being an SF, phenomenal city, phenomenal place to be as a 21-year-old. Second of all, this is the best time for me to take this risk, to take this leap. I will never be as young as I am right now, with as little responsibilities that I have right now, to take the highest risk tolerance that I have right now. And so that was another huge thing that really motivated me. So honestly, all of that to say that this past week truly has, I'll reiterate, been the hardest week of my career. And not because I hated my work or anything, not because I was working to the bone and was burnt out or anything. It was merely because I had two phenomenal options, two phenomenal offers that honestly anyone in the world would jump at to get either of those offers. But for me to have both on the table, like, first of all, seriously, like, glory to God for opening this opportunity for me, for letting me have this chance. And now I'm gonna go in and give it my best. So I hope you have appreciated the vulnerability, the insights, the lessons through this podcast, because man, it was a roller coaster. And I know this is like one of those weeks for sure, one of those episodes that I will probably keep coming back to again and again, just because of how visceral this entire experience truly has been. So we're gonna lock in, we're gonna play these 2 weeks out, really give Leland our all in these last 2 weeks, and then head out to San Francisco and see what this startup life in SF is all about. So I will catch y'all on the flip side. I record these episodes completely free to share success with everyone. So the only thing I ask is that if you learned anything or found something interesting in this episode, just leave a review and share it with a friend. Only takes 5 seconds and it would mean the world. Thanks, and I'll see you in the next episode. Tatok, see you.